closer? Okay, like an ice cream cone. All right. So we're gonna kick it off with some light intros from each of our panelists here. We have a pretty cool collection of talent from some of the most innovative companies in the Silicon Valley. We have Tesla, Google, LinkedIn up here, and Twitter. We're gonna go ahead and break it down for everyone. So I'll go ahead and kick off the intro, and the fun intro question is gonna be, what was your first email or chat handle? So, so I'm Christian Dolores, former Googler. I left Google to go to a health tech company in Southern California. I'm now head of legal at CinnerMed, and I'm doing cool, fun stuff there. The first chat handle was, I'm not proud of this, it was like AZN Boy 1989 or something like that. So yeah, that was me. So.
Hi, my name is Eric Abad. I'm a storage engineer from LinkedIn. Our group manages data storage so that the customers don't have to manage it themselves. So we leverage all the different technologies, whether it's SAN, NFS, or spinning disk versus SSD drives. My first email, which I totally don't still use, wanted to be all creative. My last name's Abad, so I did a bad name for email at yahoo.com.
Wow.
I was like, I'm gonna change this in like a month once I figure out something better. It's been like 15 years. Yeah, that's my first one.
Hi, I'm Christine Santolau. I work at Google as a senior program manager in open source and making and science. Open source being able to participate in the open source community to release, use, and support all our software in the healthy community, as well as making in science, which is trying to figure out our next generation of scientists using physical science. So if anybody goes to Maker Faire, that's kind of the world that I work in that. Oh man, we're gonna talk email. And so we were just talking about this a second ago when I said, they were saying ICQ, and I said, no, we're talking IRC. So I was on IRC way long ago, if anybody knows what that is. Anybody know IRC? Raise your hand. Okay, old cookies. Mine was, so growing up, my nickname was Teen Teen, so take off the Chris on my name Christine and double it because that's the Filipino thing to do, and that was my nickname. And that's what I was on IRC.
Hi, I'm Regina Manzanasani. I also work at Google. I'm an engineering program manager for our corporate engineering group. Corporate engineering is everything that powers Google internally, so our customers are the Googlers. So I like to say that we have the best customers in the world because it's really awesome to design for the company. So my first, I'm keeping it OG because the one that I created is the one that has remained for me throughout. So yeah. My Gmail is the Kwan at Gmail, and my Instagram is that, and the backstory to it is, I don't know if anyone else has this, but where your parents are asking you for things, and their filler word for everything is the Kwan, right? Yeah. So that's why that's mine, because I believe the Kwan can be anything and everything.
That's amazing, I can't beat that. Okay. All right, hi folks, hello. Can you hear me? I talk to new hires every Monday, so I'm used to this. I might be holding on to this mic for a while. I'm Cheryl Pilarka. I represent Twitter. I started at Twitter in 2009 when there were about 25 employees. I was one of 7 women, I think. Everybody else was a dude engineer. Okay, so let's see. I work in HR operations now, and I specialize specifically in the onboarding process, so the new hire process, and everything from facilitating new hire orientation and getting everyone into their seats on day one, so that whole entire process. My first AIM, it wasn't even called AIM, my first AOL, what are they called? Screen names, SN. Screen names was, okay, so I love dreams and interpreting dreams. So I wanted dream in it. So it created a screen name for me, Dream, but it added an E and added 4 numbers, 9318. I have no idea why, but that is it. And I think it still exists, but it's now receiving junk mail, so don't try to email it. So that's my story. Okay. Thank you.
I'll take the mutilated ice cream cone. Hi everyone, my name is Roland Abad, no relation to Eric. We've already checked it out. I work at a company called Tesla Motors. I lead a recruiting team there of about 15 people, and they are responsible for the manufacturing side of the business within all of our plants in California. So if you see a Tesla vehicle on the road, my team recruited the people who helped hire the people who put that car together. So that's what I do. Email address, the only one I can remember is actually the one I still have. It's a Yahoo account. Much like Eric, it came off my last name, which is Abad. And when I created it, I thought, well, I'm going to make an account for the house. So my email address to this day is abode. I've had it for about 20 years.
All right, that's an awesome community of talent that we have here on the stage, and I think we're going to go ahead and kick off this discussion, digging a little bit deeper into the themes that we heard today. We heard folks talk about, finding a mission, really driving towards that, but, what does that really mean? How does that process look like as far as getting into a company? So I think the first important thing to talk about is, how do I even start that? How do I approach, where do I look for opportunities? And I think I'd love to hear from, our two local talent acquisition specialists, I guess, from Tesla and Twitter to kick off the conversation, if we can.
All right. So, first of all, I wish I had one of these situations, one of these events when I was in college. So take advantage of this. When I was in college in the late 90s, early 2000s, in LA, it was more about who you knew, and it actually still is this. It's who you know and who you network through to get where you want to be. My last 3 jobs in tech, I spent a year at Google, then 2 years at Yahoo, then finally now at Twitter, were all jobs that were, I guess, earned by knowing people in the network. It wasn't just me submitting my resume through the ATS system. It actually was a person referring me to those jobs. So network, that's number one. And no, you don't necessarily need to know what you want to do. I happened to major in business administration with HR, and I kind of stuck with that. But I zigzagged my way through recruiting, through staffing, now in HR operations. You don't need to follow the same exact path that you're majoring right now, because whoever you meet down this road in life is going to help you land where you're eventually going to be. So don't worry about that. So I would say networking and getting to know, and just talk a lot. Talk a lot. Really, I'm doing the microphone thing again, so you have to take this mic away from me and interrupt me, because you have to let yourself stand out. Oftentimes, being in a minority, being a woman, being a person, especially in the Filipino culture, you're very, mahinhin. You're like, oh, no, talk. Make sure you're known, make sure people know you, because your work will speak and will precede you. So people will say, oh yeah, I know her. Oh yeah, she does this at so-and-so company. You should check her out. You should talk to her. She knows this person. Just make yourself stand out in any way you can. I mean, don't be obnoxious, but let your work show people what you are capable of. So, and I'm just so excited that we have lots of Filipinos in this room, because this is the future of tech. We need more of us in tech, because the reason why there aren't many people in tech right now, or a lot of Filipinos in tech, is because we don't have that that basis, that strong foundation yet. So we're getting there, but we definitely can benefit from situations like this. Okay, your turn.
So Cheryl said everything I was going to say, so I'm going to hammer that. No, just kidding. Everything that you said I agree with wholeheartedly, 100%. It is true. Speak up for yourself. Be confident in what you know. But that's where the caveat is, you better know what you say you know. If you try to BS your way through an interview, pretend to talk about things that you have no idea about, it will come out really quickly, and you will become a candidate that no one is interested in, because you really are not the subject matter expert that you claim to be. Be honest about what you know, be honest about what you don't know, and how you're willing to learn that. And that makes you ultimately more valuable than someone who does really know what they're talking about, but comes off as a complete jerk. At Tesla, we have a rule that can be summed up pretty succinctly as no a-holes. You may be God's greatest gift to earth in terms of a coder, but if you're a jerk, we don't want you. But that means there's a lot of potential for all of you, assuming that you're not jerks, and that you know what you're talking about.
And some awesome points from recruiting, right? So a lot of times I think folks get stuck in a traditional sense. They think that their careers are ladders, but in today's landscape, right, that's not really the truth. What you really see is that your career progression is more like a jungle gym. You know, you're going up, sideways, left and right, but hopefully moving towards the center. And I think that's a really good place to kind of expand out to the rest of the panel here, is talking about how did you approach, you know, the preparing your first application? What did the resume look like? How did you go for the cover letter? And how did those things kind of cover the breadth of your experiences? Or even if you just want to talk about your first application, did that freak you out, or how'd that go? Let's start with Regina.
I'm gonna segue, and when you were first talking about networking, I know that everyone hears this word so often, and I'm just gonna change the word a little, and instead of networking, just know where you want to play, right? I think that that's another good way to look at it, is, you know, if you find events like this or events outside of here and you find folks that share a common interest, I think that that's always a great opportunity to network. And then find people that you want to play with. You can tell that I have young children because I'm speaking. But oftentimes the people that you want to play with are the people that can help you play to win and land where you want to be. So I'll segue now into that first application. I think a lot of times, because in school you're prepped for, okay, this is everything that equals completing a major, right? And I think the thing when you transition to the workplace is that guidebook, I think in a way doesn't really exist. I think it's really this make your own playbook and how can you stand out. So a lot of times I'll get questions in, oh, okay, what is everything that needs to be in my resume? I'll say, if you can make it not look like everything else, that's the one that I'm gonna look at. And I think the thing that makes you stand out is how you sell your story, right? And so how you sell your strengths of everything that equals you as a package to be different from everyone else. So thinking back to mine, I did a top 10 list, and I attached that to my applications because I figured that would be one way that mine was different from the others.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to pick on the other Googler on the panel over here. How was your first application? What did you do? How did you feel?
First application at Google or somewhere else?
Anywhere.
Anywhere. I'd say my very first ones were horrible because I never really probably, I can look back and I can actually in hindsight look at it and say, point out all the mistakes I made. You know, I made it very wordy, like you said. I didn't stand out very well. I wanted to add every single thing, even if I attended a class or a conference or something. I put it all in there, and it's because I wanted to make sure they knew everything about me, only to realize that I left little to talk about in the interview because I tried to dump everything in there. So I'm not picking like on one specific interview, but this was the very beginning. And I remember thinking that like, when I look back at that now, after all the interviewing I've done now, that what I tell people now is put everything that you want to talk about in there as points, as bullet points, but make sure you mention something like, for instance, people always say, do I put any of my extracurricular activities in there, or anything that's personal about me? I say, actually, yeah, that'd be a good thing, because I give you, this is a very true example. I'll leave the details out, but it'll give you an idea of what it is. It's a very true example of someone that I interviewed with, a manager that had, I guess, had found a resume of somebody, interviewed them at Google. On the person's resume, they put in the personal section, avid robot fan, or something about that, avid robot fan, something about robots. He's like, oh really, you really want to put that in your resume? I'm going to ask you something. So he actually did ask him in the interview. He said, so, there's an episode where this certain object appears with Optimus Prime and starts saying all sorts of stuff. And the guy that was getting interviewed said, actually, it was not with Optimus Prime. And, you know, basically corrected him, told him what episode it was in, and then told him something else. And then the guy goes, all right, that's cool. And then I read his feedback later, and he was just like, yeah, that was easy, he's hired. And it was quick, because my point is, you put it in your resume. If you put it there, it's fair game to talk about, and you better know your stuff, exactly what you had said earlier. So, I'm very quick to tell people, if you want to put something personal or something that is non-work related in there as something to talk about, just be prepared to, you know, get the most random question about it. It could be something about, like, I always say I like to go scuba diving, and someone will ask me something about it, and next thing you know, it opens up a conversation to something else. And that's how you meet people. That's how you remember people, because it distinguishes you. So, I mean, those are like early mistakes. I think now, it would probably be something about, you know, how would I actually show my impact? What is it that makes me somebody and more important than the next candidate? Because as your career progresses, it's not the values that you perceive, that you have, that are going to make you distinguishable. That's expected of you. I think what's going to be, you know, distinguishing of yourself is, where exactly are you showing impact so that they know you're valuable to the company? Why is it that I would ever leave Google for something else? There would have to be something that would push me, because my impact at Google is this. Is it going to be greater than that at somewhere else?
I can speak to that. No, but I think those are really good points, right? So it sounds like to kind of bridge the discussion that's happening here, there's this tendency towards action versus perfect planning. You know, when you're going through this progress, when you're going through the application process, it's better to go ahead and take some action, and don't expect that you have to sit there and do perfect planning. Because if you're going to do that, you're not going to really, you know, go anywhere. But I think bridging the conversation into the interview and the resume, you know, it's really interesting. Eric here is an engineer, so it'd be interesting to hear, you know, how do you put out the technical count on your resume, and how does that come out in the interview process? You know, just give us a little bit of flavor for that.
I've only written 2 resumes. I've only had serial jobs in real work. I know when I did my first resume for the technical side, I did put some personal stuff, because I was in PACE, UC Davis's sister engineering club. And I put things like I danced in PCM and whatnot. They actually told me on my first resume to strike that stuff out and actually flesh out more what you were doing in your job. I was working in a computer lab, but I did more of my job that was more technical, as far as closer to tech support, because I was going into more of an IT role in my first real job. So when you do that, you want to make sure you tailor your experiences. Like, if you had something that, if you worked like 3 jobs, but 2 of them were in retail and 1 of them was in a computer lab, you don't really want to put the retail stuff in there unless it did have some technical support, like if you did technical support in retail for some reason. And emphasize what parts of those jobs would be relevant to the job you're actually applying to. So if you're applying to multiple jobs with, you know, multiple different types of jobs, then you want to say, this part of this job would be beneficial because I did this, and that's why I would be good, you know, at this job versus another one. Shameless plug, if you haven't already, sign up for LinkedIn and put something on there. One of the big advantages because you can link your resume, you can link your LinkedIn profile to your resume. One of the big advantages is you can put everything on your LinkedIn profile, because if they're looking at your LinkedIn profile, they're actually looking at all of your job experience, and they can pick out what you want. And you can, if they're going to do that, then you know they're going to spend more than 30 seconds looking at your LinkedIn profile. So you can put everything on there, and you can get, recommendations from people and have that on there, and show what skills that you're good at, and have people endorse you, whether it's, IT or karaoke and dancing. It's all randomly on there, and it's a good way to kind of expand out what's on your resume by putting more information on there.
Right, I think so. That's a really important point, right? So beyond the traditional resume now, there's these supplementary sites that you can go to. You can build your own website, you can go to LinkedIn, and you can really show, what uniqueness you can bring over to the company. I think I'm going to kick the next